Okay. Hopefully you ran through this and were highly successful. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've done this a bunch. I'm going to tell you right away that this is a test question. You're going to see a question very similar to this on the test. Basically, this is always what formal charge looks like. It's always which of these is the best, use formal charge. And so this is a test question, but to get it right, you have to use formal charge. So you can't just like guess and say, well, I think B is the best. You have to use formal charge. And so every year, students will take this test and then they just like randomly pick one, and you want to use formal charge in order to get your points. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do formal charge. And so remember, it's valence, which is, we've talked about, just valence is just the column, right? So like here's all the valences, right? So like hydrogen, right? Column 1, valence of 1, carbon in column 4, valence of 4. So like that's what I'm talking about, right? Like you should have written this down on your periodic table. So this is not something that you should be like, oh, what the heck is it? All right, so valence are those important bonding electrons. And so it's going to be valence minus bonds and then minus dots. Now I'm saying dots, but right, like it's actually electrons, like it's a little more fancy than that, but that's what they look like, right? Dots. Sometimes they're X's depending on who draws them. But for us, like I always draw them with dots. So let's do this A first. So let's do the chlorine. And so that's going to be chlorine's valence is 7. It's in column 7A, minus the double bonds, so minus 2 bonds, and then minus 4 dots. And so 7 minus 2 minus 4, that is a negative 1. The nitrogen, it's going to be, so nitrogen is in column 5A. You can look that up on your periodic table. That's 5 minus, now it has 3 bonds, right? A double and a single. So minus 3, and then it has 2 dots. So 5 minus 3 minus 2 is 0. And then the oxygen, column 6A, so it's minus, so it's going to be 6 minus, and it only has just a single bond. So minus 1, and it has 6 dots. All right, so this is what we've got. We've got a minus 1, a 0, and a minus 1. So that's how you should do it. Like on the test, write them down. What do you have? So that one's okay. Not great, but okay. Let's do this other one now. So for B, so B will be in red. So it's going to be chlorine on this one. It would be chlorine. Well, it's still got a valence of 7, right? That didn't change. So 7 minus this. Now it's just got a single bond instead of a double. So minus 1. And then minus 6 dots. So 7 minus 1 minus 6 is 0. Nitrogen. So nitrogen is in column 5A, so that's 5. Minus, still has 3 bonds. There's a double and a single, so that doesn't change. And minus 2 electrons at the top. And then the oxygen is 6 minus 2 for the double bond. There's the double bond right there. Minus 4 dots, 4 electrons, and 6 minus 2 minus 4 is 0. So the difference is pretty obvious that over here, everything ends up being a 0, and that's like really good. And so if we give this a 0, oh, that's not right. We don't want to do a highlighter there. Try again. A 0, a 0, and a 0, then this is the one that you're going to pick. So that's the answer, and the reason, and so the answer is B. And then, like, if they ask you for a reason, because formal charge, and you want to use the word formal charge on the test, right? Formal charge or charges equal 0. All right, so just to kind of sum up, don't make a problem like this more difficult than it needs to be. You just got to find the one that gets all the zeros. So if you, on the test, like, what you really have to remember is this idea of how do we find the formal charge? It's just the valence minus the bonds minus the dots, or valence minus bonds minus electrons. And that's really going to get you where you need to go. I guess you also need to remember that we are looking for the one with the 0 values. And if you can do both those things, you should be fine. Just don't do something like this on a test. Don't say, hey, it's B, because of, you got to say why. So, like, if you say it's B, great, but you're not going to get any points unless you say it's B because the formal charges are 0, right? Okay, so this is kind of the end of formal charge. So on the next video, we're going to pick up with Lewis dot structures. So this is kind of a short one. I'm going to stop here so I can start with a fresh set of minutes.